it's funny to see a guy who has said heinous about every marginalized group turning around and being like, oh, dude, this is a bridge too far, not realizing that his audience is going to be like, oh, dude, you.
Israel's defense minister says he has instructed the military to ensure that a flotilla carrying aid and several activists does not reach the Gaza Strip. Climate campaigner Greta Thunberg is among several people escorting aid on board the Freedom Flotilla. That's its name. It's believed to be less than a day away now from reaching Gaza's coast. The group is aiming to break Israel's siege on the Strip, a blockade that activists say is illegal under international law. Ferdia Carr reports.
It's a bold journey with a clear goal: to challenge the Israeli blockade of Gaza by sea. 12 activists are on board the Madeleine, named after Gaza's first fisherwoman. Their destination, a sliver of land sealed off by sea, air and land for nearly 2 decades.
Mavi Marmara, you are approaching an area of hostilities.
This isn't the first time activists have tried.
This is the famous remember 9/11 fake audio.
In 2010, Israeli commandos stormed the Mavi Marmara, part of a similar mission. 10 activists were killed. The raid drew international outrage.
Flotilla of hate.
And just last month,
anti-Semitic boat filled with anti-Semitic people. The sea is anti-Semitic. Yeah, famously. What or who isn't anti-Semitic at this point? You know what I mean? What is this? Joe Rogan reacts to Greta Thunberg? Let me guess. He's going to belittle Greta Thunberg.
Bro, that little how dare you girl? Yeah. How dare you? You know, the climate change girl? You know, the little autistic girl?
She's an
well, now
adult,
she's free Palestine. She's singing things off her phone. Now she's at the front of a boat like George Washington, making its way to Gaza.
Whatever the environment,
bro,
though.
It's like there she is.
Is the environment done?
Leonardo.
Is that Ari Shafir that I hear in the background? Because if it's Ari Shafir, he's a freak on every issue, but on the issue of Palestine, ironically, he is not a freak and is pro-Palestine. It's Mark Norman.
DiCaprio.
She's got a nice boat.
From the river to the rising sea levels.
She's going to
Not
fix
bad,
it.
dude.
She's going to break the
Hey,
Israeli
not
naval
bad.
blockade.
and Mark Norman.
She got more.
Bro, those IDF guys are going to turn her into cat food. They will light her up from the shore before she's...
It's Ari, Shane Gillis, and Mark Norman. I don't know why they're laughing. I would have thought they would push back on this a little bit and start ripping into Israel.
Even close. They don't play no
Everyone's
games.
going to...
They don't play
Both sides are going to blow that boat.
Yeah, they don't
the
play
second
no
they
games.
see it.
Yeah.
They'll actually maybe come together on who gets
Both
to blow
sides. Shane, you don't have to suck his this hard, brother. That's crazy. No, I'm not Mr. Anti-Joke, okay? You can make jokes about the flotilla. You can make a ton of jokes about Israel in this process. I'm shocked that guys that normally would entertain that, guys that know better, like Shane, are in the presence of Joe Rogan and have to, yes, the amazing racist is pro-Palestinian. Ari Shafir is, as far as I know, pro-Palestine. And I know for a fact that Shane Gillis is pro-Palestine. He hung out with the Kneecap Boys.
Maybe that can bridge the gap here.
She could be sacrificing herself for all of us.
Well, she could be just the best person ever.
Nothing greener than killing yourself.
She could be someone that they take advantage of and use at the front of the line for every cause.
Ooh, it's one of those.
She's a young kid, man. It's so crazy to take a young kid and like put them
Alter their lives. This is going to be your life now forever.
You're the face of X, Y, and Z.
This is
even if it's not up to her, and it is not obviously, but it could be out of her hands. She probably has handlers and political shit. But it's like,
for now,
at least she's
trying.
Gainfully employed.
She
cares.
Yeah, gainfully employed.
But this is when they're going to Palestine. It's like those people going to the unchartable islands and be like, "Hi, I'm Christian."
Spear you immediately.
Yeah, like North Sentinel Island.
Jesus, you've forsaken me.
That's just crazy.
Bro.
That is insane. This is, oh God, these guys are so cowards. Say some about Israel that's like heinous. You know you have it in the tank. You just don't want to rip it in front of Joe. That's it. They're like, my expectation is not that they make no jokes. This is a serious situation, Joe. No, they're comedians. Ari specifically is a shock comic. He is a unfathomably racist person. Okay, but it's like when they're in the same room with Joe, they can't say anything. They can't take a step outside of like the neat little confines that Joe Rogan has designed. Yeah, say some, test the waters. You know, you could say some reaction-inducing statements about Israel. I know, I've heard you say it, Ari.
Or the white social worker who goes into Baltimore ghetto. He's like, "Hey, everybody, I'm here," and they just beat the out of him.
The reason why they're so cowardly, the reason why this is like offensive to me, as someone who likes comedy and as someone who actually has like listened to their work in the past, is because Israel is such a heinous state, okay, and such a third rail in media, especially, that like if you really wanted to be edgy, if you really wanted to be counterculture, you could make ridiculous statements even about Israel, okay, instead of basically doing the edgy version of what CNN says. You know, this is not bravery. What they're exhibiting here is cowardice. Okay, what they're exhibiting here is cowardice. To be like, yeah, Palestinians are feral animals. That's the way I'm going to be edgy. I'm going to do shock jock. Yeah, punching down at people that have more courage than they do because what? They're autistic and have a media presence that's like a media presence they were contentious to when they were building their comedy careers. It's baby shit. No backbone, but also no outside of backbone. Which is, what's good? All right. Yeah, just, this isn't about jokes or comedy. It's about the message of the jokes, them being provocateurs and material. No, it is about comedy. I'm hitting this exclusively from the angle of comedy. Okay? My commentary on this, watching 4 comedians, okay, having a conversation at a comedy podcast about some serious political shit, but in a lighthearted manner, as comedians do, right? As comics do. What they're doing is unironically what cowards do, okay? Even from a pure comedy standpoint, what they're doing is cowardly. You are choosing not to craft a joke about Israel at the expense of Israel, and instead, actively leaning in the direction of punching down because you know the audience, if you get edgy when you punch down, will actually still think you're like crafting a funny joke, haha, and still think that you're counterculture and also edgy, but it's actually infinitely less risque as a joke to craft than one that actually attacks Israel. And these guys actually do criticize Israel with regular frequency. They do. They just don't want to do it right now in front of Joe Rogan because they suck up to Joe. They have to suck him off.
Among those on board is Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg.
We have made it very clear from the beginning that we are 12.
Like, think about this. A little girl, if you want to call her a little girl, she's 22, but like a little girl versus a nuclear armed state filled to the brim with religious fundamentalist nut jobs that believe in the superiority of their own people. Like, that in and of itself is a joke. The reality is a joke. Like, they're afraid of baby formula entering the strip, dude. It doesn't take much to laugh at that situation. I'm not expecting you to be like, she's so brave, Greta. She's so brave. Actually, you know what? This is a good opportunity to show you, okay, what I mean when I say this. These guys have no humor. Edgy humor, motherfuckers. When you actually make a joke about Israel, buckle up. Okay, here, edgy humor, motherfuckers. Mr. Free Speech, motherfucker. When you're all of a sudden exercising your free speech to make jokes at the expense of a nuclear armed state, or even before you talk about the expense of the nuclear armed state. Here's Dave Portnoy.
You should just
hoping that a missile strikes Greta Thunberg's ship.
go over to Gaza. We can do unnamed. You can be live
I'll
in
jump
Gaza.
I'll jump on Greta Van Thorsten or whatever that girl. She's sailing there, like whoever that. I hope they hit a missile on her boat.
Well, I hope
They hit.
Yeah. Also, in that same podcast, this is what he said.
Think
This is what he in the same podcast. Hey, that's just jokes, bro. I hope they shit, bro. Here, same podcast. Let's take a look at what else he had to say on the same podcast about jokes.
right now you probably
Okay,
don't
nothing then.
do it.
Nothing. Silence everything.
What do you? Every comedian, don't tell a joke about it because Dave, that's how the world works. I agree with you.
Go back to your question. When does freedom of speech impinge?
That was your question,
not
mine. That was your question.
Answer it.
How many deaths?
Yeah.
I don't have an answer.
Like how in America, American citizens.
What's your answer to that question?
Now.
Okay, we're there.
Now. So yeah, Dave, funny pork boy, is losing his mind at people making, like, mostly Jewish comics making jokes at the expense of Jews, which is literally the hallmark of comedy in America. Okay, like Jewish comedians making fun of Jews is literally like 75% of comedy at its inception point. And then the 25% is black people making fun of black people, okay? It's insane. It's like 75-25. What the are we talking about?
Now what? So now what do we do?
So maybe you stop with the Jew jokes and act like it's not a big deal when someone does Jews in a bar.
Or, no, here's the thing. I'm with you 1,000% on that. You should kick those people out. Of course you should.
I'm not talking about kicking them out. I'm talking about...
You want to go to jail? Like, what do you want? Like, those guys...
You are defending this guy, Mick, for what he said right after that happened. He's not anti-Semitic.
I'm not defending him. No,
if your brain goes in,
I'm not defending him, Dave. What I'm saying is you should have him on here or somebody else like that. Fight with them because then you have a conversation.
That's what this idiot wants.
Dave, these guys that wrote the thing at the bar, Jews, right?
Yes.
You're going to fly them to Auschwitz. Some guy tweets at you something. You want to... He's not. You can't come on.
It was a bar I owned. It was a bar I owned.
By the way, I'm literally on board with what Dave Porkboy was saying initially and what he wanted to do. I even said he gave too much grace to a guy who was very clearly anti-Semitic. Okay, but now he's like moving beyond that point, and he's like, oh well, you know, anti-Semitism is skyrocketing. People are actually murdered. Meanwhile, he's like, yeah, they should kill Greta Thunberg. Israel should kill Greta Thunberg. What is a more likely possibility? Okay. What is a more likely possibility? Someone getting, like a Jewish person getting hate crimed because someone said something anti-Semitic, or Greta Thunberg getting assassinated by the state of Israel. I'm being for real right now because a Jewish person getting hate crimed has a very high likelihood. Okay. Anti-Semitism is increasing at an alarming rate. But the causal factor there is not someone saying something anti-Semitic in the Western world. The causal factor is every single thing that people see on the television and the association, the false association people make between Israel and Jews. It is Israel's own violence and Israel's own dangerous conflation of its violence with Judaism that is causing anti-Semitism currently to skyrocket. That and also Twitter normalizing neo-Nazi sentiment. So even if you want to combat anti-Semitism, as do I, you have to look at the right vectors of hate. You have to look at the appropriate places where this kind of hate is manifesting. You have to look at the actual causal factors and not just sit there and be like, we got to do something. We got to kill every person. While in the process of turning around and being like, also, we should Greta Thunberg. Israel should Greta Thunberg.
He's been kicked out. So, but my thing is...
No, it's not just kick out, Kirk. Are you ignoring what's going on in the world?
No, I'm not. What, Dave, what do you want to do with those guys? What do you want to do? What do you want to do with those guys in the bar? Put them in jail for 50 years? Fine. I don't care.
I didn't say
assholes.
that. You're quite literally changing everything you say, Kirk. If you just want me to kick them out, not mention it, not care that this kid is anti-Semitic, shut up. If you just want me to ignore,
like, unironically, Barstool has a major reactionary audience, right? Like a massive right-wing audience. Barstool is a massive right-wing audience. When those guys see Dave Portnoy be like, I'm a Jew and I'm terrified of anti-Semitism exploding, and then in the same breath be like, and this 22-year-old Greta, she needs to be assassinated by Israel. I don't give a... Who do you think contributed to more anti-Semitic tendencies manifesting amongst the Barstool audience? Do you think it was the pro-Palestinian protests on college campuses, or do you think it was you, Dave? You're doing it when you're being an asshole and being like, nah, we got to defend Israel.
Don't tell me to shut up.
Shut the f up, you bald.
Okay, go ahead.
How's that?
Oh, it's kill. I'll never recover from that, Dave. Go ahead, continue. I'll never recover.
Well, you're the one who like, oh, big boss man, don't tell. I'll tell you, you work for me.
Okay, go ahead. Continue.
You work for me.
Sure, you bet. For now.
Oh, you
Continue.
don't? For now, quit. I don't care.
Is this show or not a show? Like, is this a show or not a show? Like, we can't have a conversation?
You're an idiot.
Okay, continue.
You're literally saying people should be allowed to make Jew jokes, say whatever they want, right?
Yes, I think people should be allowed to make jokes.
So how many Jews have to be killed before you stop?
That everybody, I don't think.
What else? Where else?
I think we're once again discounting, unless Dave is talking about something else. But in polite society, people who make Jew jokes are Jews. On Twitter, people who make Jew jokes are not making jokes. They're Nazis that are actively dehumanizing Jewish people. And they're doing so by, of course, conflating them with the state of Israel for the most part, and then saying that Israel dominates American politics. And then every single person in liberal media is also playing along with this dangerous conflation by saying the exact same thing, but in a woke manner. Okay? They're saying the exact same thing, but woke-like. The attitude that you demonstrate as like a right-wing guy who's like, I'm free speech, I'm for free speech, oh, these are just jokes, these are just jokes, is so silly because on the one hand, there is systemic discrimination against black people and brown people, and Dave has no issues making jokes like that. Okay? When there is systemic discrimination against black and brown people and you're making anti-black and anti-brown jokes and dehumanizing them, that actually does play a role in undermining them, as opposed to making Jewish jokes as a Jewish comedian for the most part, when there is no comparable systematic discrimination against Jewish people in the United States of America right now. I'm not talking about historical bigotry or mechanisms of enforcement that were inherently anti-Semitic, but instead I'm talking about systemic enforcement of anti-Semitic actions. Okay? It doesn't exist. It's the same as making jokes about Irish people or Italian people because Jews are broadly seen as white. They are broadly categorized under the banner of whiteness. That's it. That's just the truth. In contemporary American society, Jews are seen as white in the same way that Italians are, even though they were historically discriminated against, and obviously not to the same degree as like Jewish historic discrimination. In the same way that like Greeks were historically discriminated against, in the same way that Polish people were historically discriminated against, Jews are now comfortably within the banner of white people. Okay, while there is no comparison between systemic discrimination that black and brown people, poor people face, as opposed to systemic discrimination that Jewish people experience in the United States of America. Can Jews still experience anti-Semitic hate? Of course. And they do. Okay, but Jews are way more discriminated against than, let's say, Italians. Let's not deny that. Yeah, your comparison here is not between Italians and Jews. They're both under the banner of white, and there is no systemic discrimination against Jews. As a matter of fact, there's institutional protection against what you are describing. What you're describing is anti-Semitic incidents that take place in a country where there is systemic enforcement against anti-Semitism. Do you think there is a systematic form of discrimination in the United States of America right now against Jewish people? Do you think Jewish people are considered not white by the systems, by the institutions? Are they not in the exact same category as having power as Christians are, as evangelical Christians are? While there is different methods of discrimination and anti-Semitic hate crimes that take place in the United States of America, absolutely, where Jews in that moment will be ironically not considered white. Okay. Having said that, there are mechanisms that actually actively work to stop that from happening. There's institutional defense against anti-Semitism. It's perhaps one of the most influential forms of fighting against discrimination. And the reason for why it even is influential is because it is directly tied back to defending Israel, America's foreign policy interests. An example I've used in the past is a comparison between like if there was a colony of black Americans, not Liberia, but like a straightforward colony somewhere, like a settler colonial enterprise comprised of black people, then there was a necessity to continue that settler colonial apparatus in an effort to continue dominating the region. Then black people would have the same level of institutional power that the institutions that work to combat anti-Semitism would also have. Okay? Now, I'm not describing Liberia. I'm talking about like Liberia is not a comparison to Israel because Israel is smack dab in the. I already gave the Liberia example. I'm saying it's not a decent enough analog because Israel is smack dab in the middle of a region that has a tremendous amount of resources. Even if you don't want to use black people as an example, you use like, I don't know, Asian Americans as an example or something. Well, the point is the only reason why even organizations that are tasked with combating anti-Semitism have a lot of institutional prowess is because their primary function is defending America's foreign policy goals in the Middle East and Levant, in that region, in the MENA region. Israel. That's why there is no minority group in the country that has the same level of institutional prowess when it comes to combating and targeting hate. There is no equivalent. The ADL and all of these Jewish advocacy groups are actually Israel advocacy groups. That's the only reason why there is so much defense, seemingly, and so much success in terms of combating the bigotry of anti-Semitism. This isn't to say anti-Semitism is not a real bigotry. Of course it is. NAACP is. Are you delusional? You think the NAACP is comparable to all of the Jewish advocacy groups? Are you out of your mind? Politicians can't even say anything about Israel, whereas politicians unironically talk about killing black people with regular frequency. What power does the NAACP hold in terms of combating anti-black bigotry? You have to be out of your mind, dude. This also is a ridiculous comparison additionally because there is systemic discrimination against black people when there is no systemic discrimination against Jewish people in contemporary American society. Not historically, but in contemporary American society. Yeah, if the NAACP was had the same level of power as like anti-Semitism combating institutions, obviously it's tasked with a much larger goal as well because anti-blackness is built into the gene of built into the foundation of America in a way that like anti-Semitism isn't. Okay, there is a foundational anti-blackness in this country. The only equivalence in this circumstance would be like anti-Native Americans, anti-indigenous attitudes. But if there was enough power and institutional prowess, institutional control that Israel advocacy groups had, that the NAACP had, reparations would have been paid to black people. Black students are still suspended for over a year because of their hairstyles. This is the problem with this chat and intersectionality. Yeah. Takes lack nuance. At best, Jews are seen as nearly white, but Jews are always just one policy decision away from being shoved in the boxcars. No, that's not true. Like, I understand what you're trying to say. Non-white people consider Jews white. White people consider Jews non-white. That's not true. That's not true. When I say whiteness, I'm not talking about your neighbors and how they perceive you if you are a Jewish chatter. I'm talking about institutions. Do you understand? Like, you're saying, oh, it's one step removed. It's not. It's not impossible. And I have also long maintained this position as well. I keep repeating it. It's not impossible to think of a future where a fascist American dystopia has removed the white status of Jews. That is a possibility. but it's not one step removed. Jews are considered white. I don't mean even the way they look. I'm not talking about like Ashkenazi Jews. I mean whiteness as a mechanism of being in the in-group. Whiteness as a socio-political construct means being inside of the power structure. When politicians say America was built on Judeo-Christian values, that's what they're invoking. He didn't used to say that, by the way. That's a post 9/11 invocation. And this, by the way, anti-Semitism or like systematic discrimination of Jews and the likelihood of such things happening once again, like the irony of what I mean here, the irony of like what I'm trying to explain is Americans don't give a Jews, okay? They don't. They literally don't. Americans broadly do not care about Jews. Institutions of power, on the other hand, also don't give a about Jews, but they do care about Israel. Judaism, in the eyes of the institutions, is directly tied back to Israel, America's foreign policy, American government's foreign policy association. That is precisely the reason why the anti-Semitism combating institutions have so much power and so much prowess as opposed to any other minority group, any other marginalized group that unironically needs to have institutions with more teeth. Do you see what I'm saying? This is also part of the reason why I always say, even if every single American Jew tomorrow turned into a rabid anti-Zionist, okay, they stormed the goddamn streets, American foreign policy would not change even a little bit in terms of our allegiance to Israel, because it has nothing to do with Judaism. Unless you legitimately think that like Donald Trump loves Jewish people, like it thinks that they're special magic people that must be defended at all costs, and that there are people attacking Jews in every shadow, and it's the most significant form of racism that takes place. Unless you literally believe that, you understand exactly what I'm saying. And it's kind of crazy to bring up like people being shoved in the boxcars when people are literally being shoved in the boxcars. Some of them are being shoved in the boxcars because of their opposition to Israel, and they're being shoved in the boxcars, and the government is saying, oh, we're doing this for Jews.
Is that happening with the religion or people?
I don't think those psychopaths, I'm with you, they're scumbags, are the worst people on the earth. Should that
you don't think it's all related?
But Dave, you're telling a comedian not to make a joke?
It's not a comedian.
I'm with you, but you said stop all jokes.
Jew jokes of that nature now.
We'll ban Jew jokes of that nature. We'll get the Constitution, we'll get Congress, and stop Jew jokes of that nature.
I'll go back to this.
Yeah.
When does freedom of speech impinge on freedom of religion?
I don't think freedom of speech should. I think freedom of speech is the most important thing in this country.
Okay, so people can go kill the Jews, and there's no responsibility if someone goes and kills Jews.
No, that's that.
I also, what was the joke? I don't even know. I don't even know what he's talking about. Because, like, on the one hand, he'll be like, talking about something that's not a joke. Like, someone saying the Jews is not a joke. It's just like that's a call to action. Okay? That's not. Now, I don't know if Dave would have that exact same take about like someone invoking killing black people. I doubt that he would be as defensive. But even then, like, that's not a joke. You know what I mean?
That's a crime if you kill somebody.
No, but not saying, hey, go kill Jews.
That's different. No.
Oh, a producer said Rabbi Portnoy. That's what it was?
No. What do you mean?
You can say somebody should go kill Jews. You don't do it, but someone hears you and goes do it. You're fine with that?
If somebody says go kill Jews?
Yes.
No, that's different than telling. I thought we were talking about telling a joke. I thought we were talking about comedians.
They are all using semantics for anti-Semitism right now.
I have a completely different view on this, which is that comedy and poking fun of stereotypes is essential to build tolerance. If you say there's one ethnic or religious group you can't joke about, that will just create resentment. Plus, let's be real, Jews are probably the second funniest group in comedy. If you ban Jew jokes, the Jewish unemployment rate would skyrocket. Why is he doing this weird histrionic shit? Gay as hell. Victimhood is all the rage right now on the left and right. I wouldn't tell people don't make jokes about Pakistanis. I even organized a comedy show where a white dude did just that. No, I get it. He faced an actual prejudice comment. I get like 100 a day on here, but if you had it, yeah, that's the other thing. Motherfuckers will literally call me a terrorist and make like Islamophobia has no institutional protection, okay? In the same way that anti-Semitism does, and he's over here crying about an anti-Semitic incident. Meanwhile, like there's never a moment where I could just be like, "Hey, man, that's kind of up and racist that you keep saying I'm a terrorist that needs to be arrested and possibly killed by the government, as the government is contributing to the Holocaust of a predominantly Muslim group of people, and you're over here saying I should be fascinated by that same government because I'm defending the people that are being ethnically cleansed." There's nothing you can do about it. Like there's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing any of us can do about it. There's no way to like combat that sort of thing. It's just perfectly normalized. Like, do you see how much anti-Indian hate there is online? LMFAO, it's free, no consequences. Literally a guy that was elevated to a federal regulatory agency that is tasked with like destroying all of the federal regulatory agencies famously said, "We need more Indian hate," okay? And it was outed. And he was outed for saying this like insanely racist thing about Indians. And the vice president, whose children are half Indian because his wife is Indian, came out and defended that guy. You don't believe that? What do you mean? Don't believe what? No, I don't think that racism has a space in polite society, in normal discourse. I don't think it's appropriate that Dave Portnoy is out there doing pizza reviews and someone goes Jews or whatever, or kill the to him. That is insane. That actually reaches a level of criminality in terms of a direct threat that he is receiving as a Jewish person. Okay? This has nothing to do with that. That racism is perfectly normalized in society. Some forms of racism are perfectly normalized in society. Anti-Semitism, well, it's on its way out, but anti-Semitism is still an unacceptable form of bigotry, at least by polite society. It's on its way out. It's going away. That's what Adam Friedland always jokes about when he says, like, I can't get ready to not be perceived as white. Anyway, it's just funny to see. It's funny to see a guy who has said heinous shit about every marginalized group, who has like defended doing jokes or whatever, turning around and being like, "Oh, dude, this is a bridge too far," not realizing that his audience is going to be like, "Oh, dude, you."
Now, and I can tell the difference because for 20 years of doing it, I've never mentioned it, Kirk.
No, and I said to you when this thing happened a couple
how
weeks ago,
can you not realize we're in a different time right now?
I completely realized.
Bro, I didn't even know Dave Porkboy was Jewish until like 2 months ago when he went courtside, when he went ringside at a UFC match against that neo-Nazi and was like wearing a yarmulke and like waving the Israeli flag. I didn't even know. I didn't even know there were Jewish people in Boston. Okay. I didn't even know. I thought you're just like automatically Catholic. Everyone is Irish Catholic. If you're from Boston, you're Irish Catholic. Like, there's no other way around it. Like I literally my whole life I thought Catholic, only to find out he's Jewish like, I don't know, 2 months ago. And now he's just like, now he's become the defender against anti-Semitism.
And I'm sensitive to the fact that you're sensitive, and I feel bad.
No, you're not. You don't get it.
That's not true. I am sensitive to it. What I'm saying is it's a fine line. I think you would agree. I think you would agree, so maybe you don't, that when you start harnessing free speech and what can be said and what can't be said.
I'm not saying throw any of these people in jail. You want me to give this kid a pass.
No. If you want, no. What I would like you to do, in my mind, this is why I pitched it to the producers, and you disagreed, and you are the boss. Like I said to you yesterday, it's your dime. You own the company. I thought it would be interesting to have somebody on who you disagree with, who I think at the end you wouldn't disagree with that much, have a conversation, which is what I thought you were trying to do. Hold on 1 second. Which I thought you were trying to do with bringing these guys to Auschwitz, trying to have a conversation. So you put a name in the face of somebody you disagree with.
Yeah. So of course everybody's shitting on people. I mean, everybody's shitting on Dave. Guy's gonna get fired. Nathan Fielder would disagree with Dave's position. One of the absurdities of Germany's speech restrictions censoring Nathan Fielder, a Jewish comedian, for an episode making fun of Holocaust deniers due to anti-Semitism. Now leaders of both parties want to bring similar speech restrictions to America. I know. That was really funny. The rehearsal episode was really funny, where they were where he said that they were similar to Nazi Germany. He compared Paramount to Nazi Germany.